have him back with us today to share his perspectives on the world of broadband in 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Jonathan Spalter.
I feel very ministerial up here. This is great. Thank you so much, Rick. It really is great to be back with Media Institute. I'm trying not to read too much into Rick's decision to invite me to come on this particular day, which just so happens to be the Ides of March, which was when Julius Caesar was assassinated about 2,000 years ago. The senators who did the deed were so proud of their work that they actually issued a commemorative medal, which if you think about it, it's kind of like a pre-internet NFT. So if you're dispirited about the tone and tenor of what's going on in Washington these days and on Capitol Hill, just remember things could really be worse. But things could also get better. So very much better for every person in this country if we get the tech and the tech policy right. And that's what I'd like to talk about today. I mean, this really is a moment in my mind that's steeped in optimism about our connected future. There are many opportunities to join forces across government, industry, and community organizations. And collectively, I really do believe that we can get big things done. Our current project is to achieve connectivity for all. We know that. And according to the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act timeline, if we hit all of our marks, that goal could be achieved by the end of this decade. The question I'd like to pose today is this. We've always seen universal connectivity as the end goal. But what if it really is a new beginning? There's plenty of near-term work to be done now. We know that. But it's not too early, nor is it overkill to begin important long-term policy planning. We must ensure that when we achieve universal connectivity, we have in place the policy architecture that will guarantee that universal, affordable, equitable access is a permanent part of the daily fabric of everyone's life. This will always be a moving target that requires a sustained commitment from all of us. And our immediate focus is extending the infrastructure to everyone. But these networks will continue to advance and evolve. Mathematicians actually have an expression for that. It's an asymptotic equation. It is a continual iterative process driving towards infinity, if you think about it. We take strides and cut the distance in half to our goal of universal connectivity, bringing us closer. We cut the distance in half again, even closer. But as we progress, so do the goalposts, which is why we want a policy framework that keeps bringing our connected nation along, step by step. And things move fast. IIJA's goal is to achieve universal connectivity by 2030. That's 7 short years away. The FCC had just upgraded the definition of broadband to 25.3 from 10.1 7 years ago. And looking just at the accelerations in things like quantum computing and artificial intelligence, it's mind-boggling to think where we might be just 7 short years from now. But our job is really not to predict. Our job is to create an environment in which innovation, progress, and new technological beginnings can flourish for everyone. So let's break that down, starting with the here and the now. As BEAD funding allocations are announced this summer, state broadband offices will be in the pole position. They really are going to have an incredible influence on how the dollars are actually going to be allocated within their states. And they're going to be tasked with the all-important job of translating these broad national commitments into specific on-the-ground projects. And to do that right and to do that efficiently, a few things absolutely need to happen. First, Congress can kick us off by immediately passing legislation to eliminate the counterproductive tax on broadband grants. I mean, think about it. 1 in every $5 should not be clawed back to the general fund of the Treasury. This is basic common sense. Every dollar Congress committed for broadband infrastructure should go to broadband infrastructure, full stop. Also, funds need to flow to qualified bidders with a proven track record of success. This is not the moment to experiment. We've done that in the past. and it doesn't end well. For the millions of un- and underserved Americans who need this program to work, or for the taxpayers who are footing this rather significant bill. You know, look, if your heat goes out in the dead of winter, I won't take offense at all if I'm not the first or even the 1,000th person you're going to call. You want an HVAC expert. The same is obviously true for broadband infrastructure. Does your partner have the experience, the financial wherewithal, the technical chops, the resources, and the round-the-clock capacity to ensure these networks are built, maintained, repaired, and secured for the long haul? Fortunately, our members at USTelecom in every corner of the country are forming win-win partnerships with local governments, each playing to their respective strengths. In the heartland, on tribal land, and with cities both large and small everywhere, these partnerships really do work. And we're seeing them replicated by innovative providers and government partners across the country. Local leaders help identify the need and remove barriers, expediting permits, which is so important, and otherwise clearing a path for the engineers and the technicians to be able to do their jobs effectively. And that's what USTelecom broadband providers are doing every day, building ever stronger and more resilient networks, bringing gigabit speeds today with their boots on the ground and their trenching equipment in the ground. The companies I represent have been at the forefront of fiber deployments in this country, and we've been among the only ones out there actually connecting rural America. I'm extremely proud of the hard work our members do every day to connect our nation. So there are many opportunities for each of us to make a difference as we lay the foundation for the future. At the administration, in Congress, in state broadband offices, in local communities, across broadband companies, we need to continually ask, does this action advance our shared objective? Will this decision help clear a path for universal connectivity? Or will it delay or deter our collective progress? And as we all know, achieving true universal connectivity will be more than a feat of engineering. We also must address digital equity. You know, the movie Field of Dreams had it wrong. If we build it, there's no guarantee that everyone will come. We can have the best infrastructure in the world, but if people can't afford it, if they don't have the tools to use it, then we come up short in our nation's connected aspirations. Fortunately, we know what the levers to pull are, and Congress needs to continue, just as a start, the Affordable Connectivity Program. In its 14-month of existence, the ACP has proven to be really a runaway success if you think about it. It's connecting 16 million low-income households and counting to all that the internet makes possible. Yet the ACP could run out of funds as early as this year, which is why Congress needs to step in now to affirm its commitment to connecting low-income households. We also need to build on the IIJA's commitment to digital inclusion initiatives. Congress is rightly steering those resources to nonprofits with a deep and abiding community presence. USTelecom members have been working with these trusted partners for years now, creating centers to support virtual learning, launching STEM programs for K-12 students in underserved communities, and developing reskilling programs to train workers for careers in tech. So what else do we do that will allow us to move forward on our project to ensure ubiquitous connectivity remains a permanent feature of American life? You know, with IIJA, we are thinking big, very big, but there's also a need for the future to take a page out of Steve Jobs' iconic ad for us to think different. What does post-universal connectivity America look like? And what is the policy framework, the working model of how the public, private, and community organizations advance together in unlocking opportunities and making the most of what's possible? This involves, at its heart, a modern pro-investment framework that encourages the leading driver of broadband network innovation in this country, the $80 billion or so of investment by broadband providers each year, to continue to flow. But in the most remote, hardest to serve areas, an ongoing partnership will continue to be necessary, and this means a sustainable universal service fund with a sustainable funding formula. You know, I'm heading to Brussels later this week to meet with my global counterparts, and something that is called fair share will be a topic of conversation. It's the simple principle that a handful of the dominant internet platforms benefiting from the global efforts to connect everyone should responsibly, accountably, and fairly share in some of those costs. We see governments around the world looking at these issues very carefully, including the EU, which has a proceeding underway and a public comment period that's live right now. And even our own Congress is looking at this and is considering legislation. And just to put this into perspective, the leading edge platforms, just 6 companies, generate half of all the world's global internet traffic and have a combined market cap of $7 trillion. It's with a T. It's time we had real conversations in earnest about these companies finally stepping up to the collective cause of universal connectivity alongside everybody else. Yes, the politics of this are daunting, but if we focused only on what could get done, then very little would ever get done. It's not only time to think big, it's time to think different. And this also means finding fresh ways to shed our skin and build forward-looking policies squarely rooted in a completely and utterly transformed technology landscape. As an industry, we are all in on the American Broadband Project. $86 billion invested in our networks in 2021 alone. While the prices for goods and services across the board have been steadily increasing, broadband prices are actually beating inflation, delivering more value and faster speeds to consumers. But we know that past performance is not predictive of future outcomes. From Congress to the FCC to state and local governments, we need modern approaches that have us all pulling in the same direction forward, rather than regressing to the same old dog-eared regulatory playbook generated on a dot matrix printer. Cases in point, will we still have policies on the book that make it hard to transition from aging copper networks? Will we still have permitting backlog that literally delays broadband builds, not just by months, but in some cases for years? Does this still make sense? Does it advance our connected future? Modern, flexible policy frameworks give us our best opportunity to continually reach for the moonshot of ever stronger, more capacious, affordable, and inclusive connectivity. This means partnership-based policies that transcend the tired passion plays that keep us stuck in this ongoing rinse and repeat cycle. And we do have very good models for how to do that. Let me start with robocalls, for example. They are consumers' still #1 complaint at the FCC. In every single state of the nation, robocalls have emerged as the #1 consumer complaint. And that's why it's a top priority for broadband companies who want to keep our customers safe and secure. Our interests, government and industry, are completely aligned. And we're making progress together. USTelecom's industry traceback group, the ITG, is leading this effort, working closely with the FCC, state attorneys general, and law enforcement. The scams are continually evolving. There are very wily actors out there, but we are making real progress. Complaints are down, believe it or not, by 35% from a year ago. Car warranty and student loan scams are receding. There's another example, I'll just suggest it to you, cybersecurity. Just like robocalls, this challenge continually morphs quickly and globally. Earlier this month, the White House issued its own national cybersecurity strategy, and I think its vision is both bold and broad. Our opportunity now is to work towards its implementation in a cooperative way, based on principles of collaboration and partnership. This formula is proven, and it works especially in a dynamic, fast-changing technology landscape. The old models of top-down, prescriptive regulatory mandates simply cannot produce cybersecurity solutions that are equal to our very ferocious adversaries that are out there. Regulation is not the path forward. Partnership is. We're game to roll up our sleeves and get it done right. Next, Buy America. We all want to buy America, but we also want universal connectivity now. And the inconvenient truth is we simply don't have the domestic capacity to buy all of our network equipment at scale today. Now that doesn't mean, and it should not mean, that if we get to work now, We can't get there and stay there as a country by 2030, but we need to do the hard work today. As I said, broadband 2030 is just 7 short years away. Our success in 2030 and beyond hinges on the work that we begin now, delivering together a policy framework that fuels more participation in all that true universal connectivity can mean for every person in the country, while enabling the new generations of technologies that are sure to come. I believe we know what those building blocks are today, and I believe very strongly that this moment requires us to work together to put them durably in place. Without question, universal connectivity will be a monumental milestone for digital equity and opportunity. But the work of building a more perfect and connected union is never done. It's on us, it's on all of us to work together to get it right. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you very much. We'll take questions. Do we have time for some Q&A here?
Gary Shapiro.
I'm trying to decide if I should ask the nice question or the not nice question.
We'll go for not nice.
So, okay, since you asked. So your fair share proposal, aren't you trying to just resurrect the net neutrality debate? Because, you're getting all this government money, and then you're saying we're going to tax companies, which means you're taxing their customers, and some services like Google and Meta or Facebook, which are free services, would have to go in a different direction, and other things like Netflix and others would have to raise their customer prices. I mean, you're pushing a stone uphill where, in the view of a lot of people, it's not broken.
There used to be a time, Gary, when Netflix used to actually send you DVDs by mail, and they would include not only a postage stamp on the envelope, but include a return self-stamped, self-addressed stamped envelope on it. They actually paid for their postage. And when and as the internet was actually able to scale and develop, they realized, well, hey, we can actually transfer those distribution costs, elsewhere. What we're saying is that in a moment where there is a real national project that we're all focused on and believe in, which is making sure that we can have universal connectivity supported by universal service funds, which even today are born on the backs of only voice customers, which is a very small and diminishing number of customers out there, that it's time for a broader range of participants in the internet ecosystem to also roll up their sleeves and lock arms and work together to actually support our universal service fund apparatus, and to do so in ways that will be accountable, reasonable, and also fair. The goal of actually making sure that we will have a sustainable universal service fund is one that is actually, not necessarily guaranteed. Right now, the contribution factor is over 30%. That means that, voice customers are literally spending a 30% surcharge on their bills. What we think is, in order to make sure that universal service does not become a train wreck, that those companies that have been benefiting most from the investments that have been made by not just our largest companies and our regional companies, but also by our local providers, should join with us and stand together in actually making sure that we can support a universal service fund apparatus. This doesn't involve or, I think, implicate net neutrality questions. This doesn't need to be perceived as a tax. It's not. It's a commitment for a broader coalition of actors to actually support the vitality, the dynamism, and the longevity of the universal service fund. Now, what's your nice question?
Oh, no, that was the nice one. You actually, unless someone else, so you alluded earlier to, in one sentence, it was a great speech, by the way. I should have started out saying, I really appreciated almost all of it. You alluded to the prior effort. We learned the lessons from there, but I was struck that when the prior effort of billions of dollars yielding only thousands of broadband customers, I don't recall any deep discussion anywhere in developing since then or until now of what a failure that was and why it was a failure. What's better about this effort that passed the Congress?
I think part of the mandate that the peace program is making very clear and has been translated in a notice of funding opportunity rules and suggested guidelines to the various state broadband offices that will ultimately be administering this fund is that we really do need to prioritize and put in pole position for the allocation of these grants those companies that are truly capable of deploying efficiently and making the benchmarks that need to be made in ways that are going to be predictable and also efficient. We have seen in earlier programs like BTOP and others that there are ways of using government support for public broadband deployment in ways that are efficient and less efficient. We saw in RDOF that in certain cases there were companies that really were not up to the task of actually taking on the hundreds of millions of dollars that they were allocated in ways that could be perceived as effective. I think this time around there's a lot of learning that's gone on from earlier programs. The NTIA, working with state broadband offices, I think have laid out a very clear roadmap for the kinds of requirements that are going to make the program as efficient as possible. And I'm actually rather optimistic that this time around we're going to actually have a B program that will be successful, that will ensure that those companies and projects that are best equipped to meet their deployment milestones as effectively as possible and not putting the onus on taxpayers to handle failure are much clearer and augur well for the actual success of the program.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Hi, Lynn.
You mentioned the use of Congress to further fund the Affordable Connectivity Program, but realistically, pragmatically, is the path to get that kind of money out of this Congress without a big crisis package to hide it in?
Sure, Lynn, and it's a good question that you pose. I think that there is an alignment of interest around the notion that the Affordable Connectivity Program has been a slam dunk home run, not only in terms of the speed with which it's been able to be stood up, but the impact that it's having on so many millions of households who, as we emerge now 3 years to this week from the devastation of the pandemic, have been identified as needing these really important broadband resources. In the short term, what we know is that the Congress needs to actually have a funding request through its appropriations process, and that has to take place by the end of this month. We're hopeful and optimistic that there will be communities of interest out there that will actually stand up and suggest that this is going to be something that would be important for Congress to do. I know that the potential politics can be complicated, but at the end of the day, if we all are keeping our eyes on the prize, which is not only ensuring broadband access for all in America, but broadband affordability for all as well through programs that have been proven to be successful, like the ACP, then it is my optimistic hope that there will be an alignment of interest on Capitol Hill to say that we actually need to move forward productively and positively in making that so.
You said that the regulations not pass forward, and you talked about partnerships, but in light of what you just said a moment ago, who are these partnerships going to be?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch your question. Can you tell us your name, please?
I know I'm Gary Allen from Arlen Communications.
Right, Gary.
The other Gary.
The other Gary. You said that the regulation is not the path forward, but those partnerships are.
Right.
In light of what you just said a moment ago, who are these partners and how will they play well together?
Well, so I would just offer that the partners, are broadband providers in the context in which I've been talking. The partners are broadband providers teaming up in terms of broadband deployment with local community, either cities, municipalities, or other government bodies to actually together team up collaboratively to undertake not only the cost but the progress for actually implementing broadband programs. And this is happening all over the country. I was just in Cincinnati yesterday visiting with a USTelecom member, Alta Fiber, and they just announced last week that they're implementing a project to get 60,000 residents in Butler County, Ohio, connected in a partnership that they've specifically formed with the Butler County civic authorities, with the goal of actually getting 100% connectivity to the 150,000 residents of Butler County in just 2 years. Similarly, we're seeing one of our other members, Hunter Communications, based in Oregon, has been working with the Hoopla Valley tribe in California to work with local tribal residents in developing programs to create broadband access for those communities, but also provide broadband workforce training programs so that they can actually self-sustainingly work collaboratively in bringing in a new workforce from the tribal government into the project itself. Consolidated Communications is working across New England in partnerships with local communities, often at the very small town level, to deploy 1.6 million broadband passes in that area, all to be done in the next 2 years. So there's a rich list of partnerships, and these are just, if you look at what AT&T and Verizon is doing to create and forge these partnerships, it's actually really spectacular. And it certainly does transcend, in my mind, the notion that we should either privilege for some reason or give priority for some reason to municipalities only. That has proven to be a very flawed experiment that we've seen in the past. And it also transcends the notion that the best path forward in terms of government's relationship with broadband is to take a posture that regulation and prescriptive mandates are superior in some way to finding and forging areas of cooperation and collaboration through formal or informal partnerships like the ones I've discussed. Well, with that,
Jonathan, thank you so much for
thank you very much.